Good morning. Here we are at the Cottage School to do our workshop on positive discipline. We've been doing these workshops for about 12 years. But for the past year, we are very happy to have Dr. Jason Rodker to be helping with them and having his own point of view on the topic, although we based it on the book of Jane Nelson. So I hope you all have read this book. If not, it's really a book to have at home. And I would like to mention that as part of our organic education, we offer positive discipline. And we just finished a video about the school on organic education where that you can see. It's only 1 minute long. And it will give you an idea of the school and why we use positive discipline.
Organic education embraces the natural desire to learn that comes from within the child. Our students learn organically because we believe that children are natural learners. We respect the child's natural development and pace. We consider individual needs, desires, passions, and ways of learning. We teach through immersion to learn organically, to learn from the whole. Positive discipline. We support all areas of the child's development, physical, social, affective, and cognitive. We integrate academics and arts daily. Our approach is based on cooperation instead of competition. Organic education keeps the desire to learn alive.
So it's a short video, but I think it summarizes our approach. And we're going to start with the workshop right away. At the bottom. Oh, yeah. If you'd like to say
Sure.
what's about your background.
I'm Jason Rodker. Like Laura said, I've been helping with the Positive Discipline series for the past year. For those of you who have heard my little spiel, I apologize, you'll hear it again. For those of you who haven't heard, I thought I'd give you a little bit of my backgrounds just because I think it's important anytime that you're hearing a professional speak that you kind of have an idea of where they're coming from, where they've gotten their perspective. So I've been working at this point with kids, teenagers, adults, therapeutically for the past about 10 years, ever since I began my doctoral training at Pace University. I've worked in school settings, elementary, middle school, high school. I've worked in regular ed settings. I've worked in alternative school settings. And for the past 5 years, I've also been working in private practice, mostly with kids and teenagers, families also, and parents, obviously. And as far as my experience with positive discipline, about a year ago, I received my certification as a parent trainer in positive discipline. And also, even more valuable than that is I've been using positive discipline to raise my own children. I have a 4-year-old who attends this school, and I also have now a 6-month-old at home who's been keeping us up at night. So if today I have trouble finding my words or my eye starts twitching frantically, it's because of a lack of sleep. So that's really where my learning about positive discipline has really been enriched by using it with my own children. And so there'll be based on my own personal experience using this at home, there'll be certain areas which I will emphasize more because I have found them most helpful to me. There are other areas which I will probably emphasize less because I have personally found them less helpful. And that's one of the nice things about positive discipline is that there are so many different pieces and so many different tools that everyone will kind of find what works for them best. Probably not everyone here or everyone watching online will find all of the tools equally valuable. So what works for one person may work differently for another person.
I want to say something that you mentioned that you use it at home, and so we've been using, the school has been here for 15 years, right? So we've been using it here for 15 years, and I've been using it at home. My kids are 20 and 25. I still have to read the book and go back to some concepts and see, okay, where I am or what words I need to use. But it's funny sometimes that they will say, is that from the book of positive discipline? Is that a script? Because if you're practicing something that is not really easy to implement, then it doesn't sound very natural sometimes. So it takes many years until you really make it your own.
Right.
We can keep doing workshops and then, keep learning. As Laura said, every time I learn something new, and actually reviewing all the notes, I found new stuff today after 12 years of doing it. So never stop, going back to the notes because it's really important.
Right. And like I said, there's so many different aspects and so many different schools within the positive discipline model that we can't get to them all during this workshop series. So I think it's really important to know that really reading the book is the foundation for all of this. So I would encourage everyone participating online and in person, if you haven't read the book already, read the book. At a minimum, it will give you an idea of the way that your children are being educated here at the school. So it's valuable to know for that reason. And I'm not going to attempt to cover everything, because rather than rush through and try to just cover everything, I'd rather us focus and kind of delve deep into some of the concepts rather than just try to cover everything at a superficial level. So we'll cover as much as we can. I think each of these 3 workshops, it really is intended as a series, so I won't be repeating today's information in the next one or the third one. So really, I strongly encourage people to try to attend all 3. If you can't attend one online, in person, watch it online and vice versa. And I believe these will also be available online even after the workshop series is over. So I would really encourage people to watch or attend all 3 of them for more of a comprehensive kind of idea of what we're talking about here. Okay, so I thought I would start actually by talking about what positive discipline is not. I think that's a little bit actually easier than talking about what positive discipline is, because positive discipline is a lot of things. But so what it's not, a common misperception that I think most people have when they hear the word positive discipline is they automatically think, oh, I'm supposed to be nice to my kids all the time. Oh, I'm supposed to just help them all the time. I'm supposed to give them what they want. It's my job to make them happy, and so that they're never upset. Everything is supposed to be positive. That's really not what positive discipline is about. Positive discipline is about disciplining, providing guidance, and helping our children to learn in a way that is encouraging, in a way that's positive, as opposed to negative or overly harsh and strict. We'll talk more about these things, but basically I want people to know off the bat, this is not about just making your kids feel good all the time. And that's without reading the book, that's what the assumption people jump to often.
Yes, it's very common.
Right.
It's too early to.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going to get to that in a little while. So I'll give you a little bit of a history of positive discipline, just in a nutshell, so you have an idea of kind of the foundation of where these ideas came from in the first place. Everyone, most people are familiar with Sigmund Freud, at least superficially, who he was. The fact that he was a psychiatrist and he studied the unconscious, right? And so Freud's idea, his ideas were based on the premise that much of what we experience is unconscious to us, and that the part of what we're aware of is only the tip of the iceberg. I have this iceberg, this wonderful iceberg illustration up here. So our behaviors and our actions and the things that we're consciously aware of are just the tip of the iceberg, and below the surface of the water is what lies the majority of what makes up our psychological life. Our beliefs, our feelings, our thoughts, our desires, especially memories, very, very early unconscious memories, sensations and urges. Alfred Adler was someone who studied alongside Freud, and Alfred Adler broke off from Freud and developed his own school of thought with regard to psychology and psychological development. And Adler really emphasized the need that we all have to belong, to feel a sense of belonging and significance. And and positive discipline is based on the work of Alfred Adler. So it's based on the idea that the main motivating influence for children is their desire to feel belonging and connection with other people, and to feel significant, that they have something to contribute to the world. One of the ideas that I really appreciate about positive discipline that it has continued is this idea that children are often unaware of why they're behaving the way that they are. So they're not always aware that they are reacting to a school environment which is not meeting their needs. they're just acting, right? And sometimes they're acting out, and sometimes they're acting in ways that are behaviorally inappropriate, right? But they're acting based on needs they have that they're unaware of. So it's our job as parents to create some awareness about what is motivating children to behave the way that they are, so that we're not simply just intervening at the behavioral level, but we are really intervening in a deeper way with everything that's kind of most important to a child in terms of their development. Yes, that's important because I think a lot of parenting programs and a lot of parenting advice today is based on that little piece of the iceberg at the top, which is how to intervene behaviorally, how to change behavior. And I think in doing so, we end up missing a lot of very important things. And so positive discipline really maintains a focus on the big chunk of the iceberg. Wouldn't you say that's
for
true?
a long term,
Yes.
really benefit, not
Right.
a short term.
Right.
So punishments, for example, work in the short term because the child will do it, just not to receive the punishment, will do what you want them to do. But they don't work on the long term, just to give an example, because they
Right.
create resentment on the child, anger, right? And so there's a big difference in what is positive discipline and what is not.
Right. Yeah.
S-
Yeah, we're going to talk more about the punishment and reward thing also. So with regard to what you just said, the fact that positive discipline is aimed at long-term benefit as opposed to short-term gain. So with that in mind, I'd like to go to the board here, and I'd like us together to kind of start thinking about some of the behavioral challenges that we face with our children. And so as you're thinking about it, just call some out. I'm going to write current behavioral challenges on this side, and then we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to write down the things that we hope our children will gain long term in terms of life skills and competencies. So for now, what are some of the behavioral challenges that you guys face, in raising your children?
So I have a challenge with transition times. Like,
Okay.
for example, transition time to dinner, to the car, to different things where the child acts out because they don't want the transition to occur. And then it's a struggle between me and the child over going to that transition.
Okay, so what's happening during transitions actually? What does it look, what are they doing?
It looks like a temper tantrum.
Okay, yeah.
And she's two
Two and a
almost
half
3.
year old, and wants to be, I guess, the boss, and doesn't like transition from something that she's enjoying doing.
Right. So difficulty transitioning. Yeah.
I feel the same.
I feel bad.
It's important also to mention the age, because
2.5.
if
Right.
it's developmentally appropriate, then we have to understand that too.
Yeah, exactly. What else?
I don't know how to word it. Would you say time management? Like that?
Yeah. Yes.
Managing homework. My son is
Executive
10.
Functioning skills.
Is that what it is?
Maybe just say what it looks like, what the
Okay.
behavior looks like.
Well, I don't.
Well, Laura's almost an
Let me
expert in terms of
Procrastinate?
issues.
Is it procrastinate? Is that
I guess
procrastinate?
not focused or
Okay.
okay. How about we have to leave in an hour to go to soccer practice. So, what do we have to do before we go? He'll tell you, right?
So
I have to do my
transition
homework.
times
Is that
to
the same
the-
thing? Homework, eating, whatever. But it's like, well, I'm just gonna take a minute over here and go do that. And I'm like, well, you gotta come back here. And he's older, so it's.
Oh, it's good. So then to talk about transitions according
Yeah.
to the age,
Because he can give you his rebuttal, so to speak, right? Or I'll, I don't know.
Arguing? Did I just hear rebuttal?
Yes, arguing.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah, excuses. I don't know how to say it.
Procrastination.
I don't know how to say it positively.
I'm gonna put arguing whether you intend it or not, because
Yeah.
that's something that I experience at home, is arguing.
And I guess that's what I meant when I was joking with you before, that, I engage right back.
So I heard you say lack of focus, being distracted, arguing I think is maybe a little part of it. What else? What other behavioral challenge? Yeah.
So I have 2 sons, 8 and 10. They're here, and they're together a lot. Especially, we drive here together. They're here together. They're at each other's practices, and they get along really well. But sometimes my older one I feel like he picks on the little one, or he'll do something to trigger. Like, it's not coming from a playful place. It's coming from a putting down place, and my little one feels that right away. If it's coming from a playful place, he'll play back. But he is very
So sibling
emotionally in tune, and everybody says that's normal and sibling rivalry and all that.
Does it happen when you're present or when you're not?
Sometimes I'm there. Yeah.
Usually, always,
Um,
most of the time.
Not all the time. No, they could be playing downstairs, and
But you are with them.
I'm usually
not just
home.
because that happens. I mean, I'm just thinking of in what situation it happens.
It was happening a lot, and it's gotten less, but I still notice it sometimes.
Okay.
I think I have some insight, but I would like
Yeah, for the moment,
with you on that.
for the moment, we're just going to be listening. Let's not get bogged down with too many
Right.
detail or what to do about it. Yeah, we're going to get into the what to do about these things a little later. For now, I want us to have, basically we're creating a reference so that as we go on with our discussion, we can look back at this, you know. So, fighting, teasing, putting down, that kind of sibling conflict. Okay, anything else?
I have one. So the example would be any mealtime, and I would say, okay, it's time to eat, and my son, he's almost 3 in December, he'll give you his attention and look at you, and he knows what you're asking him to do, and then it's like a conscious decision that he's just not going to do it, and there's no tantrum, and there's no outburst or defiance. There's just, I'm just calmly going to go do something else instead.
So I'll put non-compliance, and there are lots of different kinds of non-compliance. This is more of a passive non-compliance. Would you say it's like just a
I mean, he's
civil
Aware of what's going on, but
He's
he
very-
just doesn't want to do.
yeah, he gives you your attention. He knows what you're asking him. He's just like, no.
Yeah.
So, and he doesn't even say no. He just his actions say.
His nonverbal says no.
His actions say, not going to do that,
These little
Mom.
people,
Yeah.
right? They give us a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
On this side.
So, and I'm gonna, you know what? I wouldn't say not listening because again, he is an excellent listener.
Oh, okay.
It's not listening. He hears me. He's not following
Right.
the
Right.
command.
Yeah. I guess okay, I'm glad you made that distinction. You didn't say not listening. I interpreted it as
Correct.
saying not. Because I hear a lot of parents describe what you're describing
But it's
as,
not
and call it
listening.
not listening.
It's not
Yes.
listening.
So, okay, right.
Yeah.
But it's
He
not
looks
actually
in my eyes. He knows.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Often, I guess I felt the need to put this down because this is something I want to talk about later, which is that often as adults we confuse the idea of not listening with not doing what we say.
Correct.
Those are two different things, right? But often when the kid's not doing what we say they're not listening. So we'll come back to that. So I want to make sure I captured, would non-compliance kind of be?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anything else? What else? Even in the classroom, if you guys, ever
How about impulse control?
impulse control.
I think
Okay.
that sometimes, not only with my child, but I do know that with her cousins and so forth, there's sometimes some impulse control that not knowing when to hit or
Okay.
hug. How about
Okay.
hug?
Yeah.
My daughter is a hugger, and she will hug everyone, whether it's appropriate or not. And in fact, my husband just said to me yesterday that somebody scolded him because she ran up to some lady and hugged her, and it was a stranger. And the woman said, you should be careful of that because we don't know you, and somebody could, interpret that the wrong way.
Right.
So,
So I guess I interpreted what you were saying as poor boundaries and a lack of impulse control. Would that be an okay way to say that? Okay. All right, let's move to the future life skills. Now, I'd like you to imagine that your child is showing up at your door at the age of 25. They're grown up. What kind of skills would you like them to have acquired by that point in their life? Yeah.
I would like him to have better communication skills, in that if he was asked to do something that he doesn't feel like doing at that moment, that we could engage in a conversation about it. And I, as the parent, could understand why he feels differently at the moment, and then we could approach it differently.
Okay. It sounds like you were saying, without saying, problem solving also, like
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so good communication, and part of the good communication is the ability to problem solve with another person, right? Okay. Yeah.
To be respectful.
Yeah. Respectful of themselves or others?
Right.
Both?
Both, yeah.
Confident in themselves and their abilities.
Yeah.
And their unique gifts.
I actually have one: active listening.
Okay.
So when you're, and I guess as an adult, I have problems with this too, where I have something to say and I might not be listening to what the other person is saying because I want to say what I have to say. So I think that if that could be taught early on, that would be an excellent skill to have.
I agree, definitely. Also, people online, feel free to chime in, with any thoughts or ideas, questions along the way. It would be great to have you involved also in the discussion. What other life skills, social skills would you like your kids to have?
Empathy, you would say, or not?
Sorry?
Empathy.
Empathy, yeah.
Resilience.
Yep.
Tolerance.
Yep.
Able to deal with stress management.
Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah, that one's at the root of a lot. If we can manage stress well, because that requires resilience and a certain degree of tolerance and sometimes empathy for others, so yeah, there's a lot
Or for us.
in that.
For ourselves.
Yeah, right. Any other life skills, social skills that you'd like your kids to have?
Humor.
Sense of humor.
Yes, sense of humor.
Yeah,
is
that's
important.
very valuable. Okay.
Executive functioning skills are so important when your child, and they will be college students one day.
I was going to
Goes
say
really
leadership.
fast. This is the time to build them, okay? And I actually made some copies of something that we haven't talked about before, even in 12 years, right? But it was, to me, enlightening, and I know you want to follow through that, but something that it was so important for me to read again, and it's not your job to make your children happy, and I think it's so important. This is one of the handouts. Or to make them feel that they don't have to work for something or suffer, and all of that. And in doing that, then sometimes